back, Casey here with Two Tankers. Today we're going to talk about my results of using a JTECH 7-watt laser pro on the M2 platform to cut through 5mm plywood that you would get from a standard Home Depot or Lowe's. So stay tuned. So first thing we need to do here is level set expectations. First of all, this unit, as per JTECH's email back and forth with me, is designed to cut or guaranteed to cut 1/8 inch plywood. That's roughly 3mm plywood. Unfortunately, there's an issue with that for the folks that use the M2 or the larger CNCs. We want to cut large pieces of wood. If you look at 3mm plywood, it usually comes in 12 by 24 or 12 by 12 or 24 by 24 inch pieces at 3mm thick. The standard material that we get from big box stores is usually 5 to 6mm thick, more towards the 1/4 inch thick. So the goal of this experiment for me was to see if I could get the JTECH laser to cut through 1/4 inch 5-ply plywood that I could just pick up in bulk at Lowe's and Home Depot. So taking a look at that, that is one of the things that is outside of the parameters from JTECH's perspective. The other thing that I found was from JTECH in the email with their service department is there's an issue with the 5 amp output on the 7-watt Pro module. It will output 5 amps, but JTECH recommends that you keep the jumpers set inside of the output module. You limit those to 3.5 amps because continued use or long-term use of the 5 amp output setting will burn up the laser very quickly. So they recommend only setting those jumpers to run at 3.5 amp max output to ensure longevity of the module. That is per JTECH requirements or JTECH recommendations to their service department. They're in the middle of redoing their documentation to ensure everybody understands that aspect of the 7-watt laser. The second thing is the module, when you purchase it, it comes with a case like this. This case is limiting in its factor for 1/8 inch thickness. That is 3mm as per se, which is the exact same focal length of the unit whenever you try to mount it and then you focus the laser using the little piece that goes underneath. Whenever you're cutting regular plywood from Lowe's or Home Depot, that is more like 5mm or maybe 6mm, that's thicker than 1/8 inch ply, or the thickness of their focusing tool. So that means if you're trying to use the Z steps going down, eventually you'll bottom this out on the unit. So what I had to do was create my own bracket to go into the M2. I removed the JTECH laser from this housing so I could get the full 3-inch travel distance on this when it's properly focused. I can get the full 3-inch travel on this, and I can utilize my Z step to move down every pass to ensure I keep the laser focused at the bottom of my cut area. So let's take a look at some of those settings. So let's take a look at your settings in LightBurn. The first thing you need to do is enable your Z-axis step on your M2. To do that, you need to go up here to Device Settings, click on it, and on the right-hand side, there's a little tab that says Enable Z-axis. Go ahead and turn that tab on and click OK. Next, we'll adjust our settings per layer for the image that you've chosen or uploaded into LightBurn. I just used the simple circle tool to create a simple circle, and we'll adjust those settings on that layer. Double click that layer. When it opens, you'll see a few areas that you need to adjust. The first is speed. I use millimeters per minute. I set mine at 150 millimeters per minute, which is just a little bit more than 6 inches per minute. The next area that I check is my max power. Make sure that is set at 100%. The next area that you adjust is your Z step. So I've chosen 24 passes as an estimate at first on my scrap piece. I want to cut all the way through my plywood in 24 passes. My plywood using digital calipers is 4.9 millimeters thick. So in order to get my steps, I take my thickness of my plywood at 4.99 and I divide it by 24. That actually gives me 0.20 millimeters of step per pass on the M2. Now I know, I've done some testing, I actually get 0.22 millimeters of burn per layer. So with that in mind, I adjusted mine to 0.23. Utilizing the calculation, the thickness of wood divided by the number of estimate paths or passes is just a ballpark figure. You'll need to use some scrap wood to figure out exactly how much you burn or how deep you burn per pass to properly set this. In addition, make sure you always overcut. So if your plywood is 4.9 millimeters, I would adjust your passes and your settings to cut at 5.5 millimeters. That way you cut all the way through the wood, just like you would if you were using a router and a bit. Once you have your settings set, click OK. So the last step in LightBurn is to save your G code. To do that, I check a few parameters first before I save my G code. I look at my communications protocol on my system settings. I'm chosen the right system, the MakerMade. This was made with the 2.8 watt laser, but it's okay because the communication protocol is the same with GRBL. So I have the right system settings here. The next step is to look and make sure that my layer settings were saved. I just confirm that by looking at my pass count, my speed, millimeters per minute, and my power at 100. Once all of that is checked and I think it's good, then I go ahead and simply save my G code. So now that you have your G code saved, all you have to do is load it into MakerVerse and start cutting. I'm not going to go through the MakerVerse settings for the laser. They're the same as the 2.8 watt laser that I did a video on. If you want to use that, watch that video. It's the same settings as the 7 watt laser. So let's go ahead and get on to final thoughts here. So the 7 watt laser that you get from JTECH at 3.5 amps, it does cut through 5 millimeter plywood. It will definitely cut through 3 millimeter plywood as they guarantee, but it will actually go deeper using Z offsets or Z steps to go down whatever that calculation would be. It will actually cut deeper. The primary thing that you're going to need is to make sure that you have high pressure air assist, not just moving air. I have 850 CFM behind me on my dust collection. It definitely helped a lot, but one of the things I realized is you need needle pressure air that shoots down into the crack of the cut with the laser. And what that is primarily to clean out all the ash so the laser can constantly keep its focus at the bottom of the wood to make that cut. I probably could have gone with less cuts, less passes, with better cut, better depth per pass, if I would have had high pressure air assist. You can do that with just needle, a small pump. You can get that stuff on Amazon. Back to the 7 watt laser from JTECH. JTECH does sell a version of this, a model that does not come with the housing. It actually has the fan on top. I'm not gonna post all of that, the links to it and everything. I'm not an affiliate with JTECH. I just wanna talk about which one you would want to get. So that one is the one that you would want to get. Then you'll have to create your own custom clamp for your M2. I used the 91 millimeter clamp, so I made my own base for that. Then you would want to make sure that you mount it correctly, and you could actually use your Z steps to finally tune in that laser dot at the bottom of your sled and make sure that it's as crisp as you can get. Then you can do your test to find out what your cut depth is actually per pass. Then you would use that to go ahead and adjust your Z step in your LightBurn software for your primary project. So my final thought on this is this isn't for the faint of heart. It will cut up to 5 millimeter plywood that I have found. It cuts just fine. It does take a little while, but like I said, with high pressure air assist, it'll probably cut back on a lot of those passes you need. And it does work more than JTECH says it will. JTECH says 3mm plywood, 1/8 at 10 inches per minute and 3.5 amps. This will actually cut at 6 inches per minute up to 5mm is what I got at rough 6 inches per minute at 3.5 amps. So it is definitely doable. What are the benefits of that? If you're a hobbyist, or if you own a store that makes a lot of components that you sell online through Etsy or whatever it is, the thing that I like about this is I could go ahead and etch something, something as simple as if I was making something like this that is simply, let's say, coasters for a table. I could actually etch a symbol into here and then go ahead and have it cut it out completely. That is very nice. I like that idea. Plus it's quieter, it's cooler, it doesn't have all the dust. And to be honest with you, I was able to put a little camera on it and watch it when I went inside. And I felt a little bit more comfortable leaving this alone while it cut versus a router running at 15 to 20,000 RPM. And the cut duration is about the same or maybe a little bit longer on this, which is okay. I'm willing to sit back and, have a drink or something and wait for it to quit cutting. But I did like this. So the 7-watt laser pro version with the right lens on it, I believe it's the high definition lens that JTECH recommends. You would want to buy that unit without the housing. You'd have to create your own clamp for it, and then just do a few steps to figure out exactly what that depth per pass is going to be. Here is my final piece that I cut. You can see it literally just leaves a hairline right here. You can see that. That is literally the thickness of the veneer on this, which is okay. I don't mind. I just moved it over and I used a knife and just trimmed it out in the back, and the whole thing popped right out. Usually these edges get sanded anyway, so I'm not too worried about that. But cutting through almost a 1/4 inch plywood with the JTECH 7-watt laser is doable. It's not for the faint of heart. It takes some time, it takes some patience, and figuring out exactly what your settings are going to be. So with that, as usual, if you like my channel, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.